Welcome back, family, to another episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. Guys, this has been such a busy season, and I cannot even believe we're like in the middle of August right now. Like, what's happening with this year right now? I'm not ready for this last half of the year because the last half of the year is always a blur for me. There's always so much going on today. And we have some exciting guests on the show today. Like, y'all, when I read their submission, I knew I wanted to talk to them because they are doing something completely different than anybody else that I have ever seen. But, family, before we get started, y'all know how we do around here. We always give our 30 seconds of gratitude before we start our show. And since Gina and Lawrence are my guests, I allow you all to go first. Go ahead and give your gratitude.
Oh man, thank you. Do you want
Mhm.
to start or I
Yeah,
can?
we're really thankful to be here, to be connected with you and your audience. We're really just thankful to be in Guatemala where we're at. We're thankful for the weather, the people,
Yes.
this
We're
nourishing space.
definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely. Yes, thanks for having us.
No problem. Do you have some gratitude you would like to give out, Lawrence, before I hop in?
I'm thankful for clean water, clean drinking water. I'm grateful for a full fridge. I'm
Yes.
grateful for the air that I'm breathing right now. That's the most right now.
Yes, yes. And I want to kind of enhance what you just said. I am grateful for opening my eyes every single day because there are
Mm,
so many that did not get that opportunity today. And every time you open your eyes is an opportunity to do something better than you did yesterday. I'm grateful for
Mm,
my family, my support team, because without them, I could not do any of this. I'm grateful for people like my current guests who reach out to me and want to get out the word about what they're doing. Each one of us are trying in our own way, at least I hope so, to make this world a little bit better in our own little corner. And so I really appreciate those who reached out, and I appreciate all the energy and love that is being given to my audience because it's been so valuable. And we know that was probably more than 30 seconds, but it's all good because when giving gratitude, you can never be grateful enough. Because when you are operating from a space of gratitude, you cannot live in a space of negativity. The two positively cannot exist at the same time. So,
mm.
let's get
oh,
into it, family. So
that's
today I'm going to introduce my guests. It is Lawrence and the lovely Miss Gina Oliver. They are the owners and founders of Wave Enterprise, which is a boutique audio visual studio that services female owned wellness women and women of color brands, right? And so I know about them because I read their bio, but I always like our guests to tell our audience in their own voices. Tell us about you. Where are you guys from? You just said you were in Guatemala currently, but tell us, like, where are you from? How did you get to Guatemala?
wow. Well, the story is very long, but I can put it in a concise way. We met in 5th grade, and that's when I knew I would marry her.
Oh,
She
wow.
might not remember this story as well as I do, but that's when it really started in a suburb of Chicago. We grew up, graduated together. We dated through college. Long story short, we had long distance, and that made us strong. After college, we got married and did corporate America. I was in sales. She was 3rd grade teacher, and
Oh, wow.
it got to us. It got to us to a point because we were developing in a way that
I was
some
getting too many gray hairs teaching third grade.
Nobody has time for that.
not at all. Things that she was teaching, the things that I was going through wasn't quite aligned with where we were headed in our spiritual and just personal development.
Right.
So we made the decision to move to the Philippines, and at the time I was doing something called Wave Enterprise Records, which was a music recording, you know, a record label, and
Okay.
I'm in music production and stuff like that. So that
Okay.
was the time. We move overseas. She's still teaching online. Long story short, the internet in Manila is awful, so that wasn't sustainable for her.
Yeah.
And
So I just had to kind of stop teaching online and kind of had this like identity crisis. Like I went to school to be a teacher and here I am like all across the whole world and I can't continue doing what I was meant to do, I thought.
Mm.
So he was like, well, we need a website. Like I need a social media presence for like our business page. And why don't you, try that out? So I just kind of started there and I loved it. And it was really awesome, like being able to just build a website. Like I never thought in a million years, like me, a third grade teacher, can just build this website. And I just taught myself how to do it. And
Mind you, this is 2019. So
yeah,
this is pre-COVID.
Okay.
This is
yeah.
us still just diving in. So now we're just, okay, let's just try to build these skills. And then
Mhm.
fast forward to now, we've been going all in every day. And like she has grown into a whole thing that we had like didn't even expect. And she's a wizard with graphic design. She's a wizard with
Nice.
copy, with social media strategy. And it's not just me saying it, like there's results, there's case studies, there's things to back it up, a portfolio. And that's, talking about gratitude, that's one thing we're both so grateful for, is just to be here today and to look
Mhm.
back on everything. So very long story short, again, I keep saying that Wave Enterprise is an audiovisual boutique, and we serve women of color. We serve a wide variety of people, but we are passionate about serving women of color in the wellness industry. That's
Mhm.
why we love connecting with people like you.
Mhm.
And
I kind
we,
of want to just say a little bit
yeah,
of piece about the, women in color aspect. I think when I was teaching, I saw a lot of minorities get treated a certain way, and it was really hard to, think about, well, how can I make a difference in their life? And even then, like, it's just, the odds were stacked up. So now we want to help those people, specifically in the wellness area too, because while we were traveling, we were really unlearning a lot about, money mindset and just like wellness in general. And like,
Mm,
living and being in Atlanta, that's where we're at, before we moved, there was just a lot of things going on that were negative, and
yeah.
we just had to like step back, and it took us to like move all the way across the world to realize like it's maybe not healthy, like the way I've been thinking, or the way, I think about money, or the
Or
way
as a
anything.
black man, I moved to the Philippines. I didn't even know I had this weight on me, but I see law enforcement overseas and I'm liberated. I don't have any, because they're like Bob Marley. Oh my gosh, they have these big shots, but they're so friendly to me. And in Atlanta, if you see the lights going, there,
yeah.
I didn't know until, at least me personally, I traveled. I didn't know that that was something weighing on my mental health and
Right. A very different
being,
experience. Very different
yes.
experience. And for my audience, you guys can't see him, but he has these long dreads. So so that's where the Bob Marley reference would come from. But it's I'm quite sure that it's such a different experience, the culture there and the way that we're viewed when we're there. So I want to back up just a little bit before we start to get into this topic. I want to talk about the identity crisis piece.
Mm,
Mhm.
Now, that happens to so many of us. We go into one field thinking that's our calling, and then life happens and our true callings begin to emerge. I went into technology. I'm a cybersecurity analyst. Like,
mm,
Wow.
there's absolutely no correlation between the two. So,
Mhm.
and I remember going through an identity crisis when I made the conscious decision and said, you know what? This is not helping people. This is not serving people. So, Gina, can you talk a little bit about how that evolved, especially as a woman, because that happens to us as women in so many different ways. And I don't know if you guys have kids or not, but I have children. And I know
mm,
that when I had my children, I went through a whole different identity crisis. When I got married, I went through an identity crisis. I went through so many different phases of identity crisis because of all the changes. So, Gina, can you share a little bit with the audience about what that's like and how you were really able to pivot and overcome that identity crisis because that's something they really relate to.
Mm,
Yeah. So I mean, of course I went to school. I was in debt, paying back student loans.
Mhm.
The piece of me that was trying to like do this 360 was like low key just freaking out, because I'm looking at my husband like, okay, he has always been good with music. He also plays football. So like he has these things to kind of fall back on. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, what am I good at? Like what else can
Mhm.
I do? And I think a lot of times, like to anyone else listening to this who's like considering changing careers, like it's just like the fear of like, I don't know what else I can be good at, but if you just allow yourself to, be in that space of kind of vulnerability, I think something beautiful can come out of it and you can discover like so many different parts about yourself that you never knew were there. And I also had the piece of my family not being supportive. Um, for one, because we moved to the Philippines and they were like, "What in the world are y'all doing?" Um,
it's
and
not safe.
and for two, like they were like, well, you went to school for this, you're paying back your loans, all
Yeah.
these things. And I actually got to the point where I had to cut them off. Like I didn't speak to them for at least a year, which was really hard on my mom specifically, but it was just like necessary while I was
Mm,
going through this transition. Like I couldn't
Mm.
have anyone, even my family, in my ear, like
mm.
giving me negativity in any way because I was doing this thing and I had him, so that's all I needed. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Can
I
I
can Sure, go ahead, go ahead.
and this is I know you're speaking towards women with the identity crisis too, but I played football in college
Mm.
and was at a Division 1 level, so there was some skill there, and I tried to play in the NFL, but not just me, a lot of brothers of mine. And when people have this talent, or if this is for me, I had an education in music, which was beautiful, a good background, two supporting parents. So I had things to fall back on, but I've had a lot of brothers who didn't have that.
Right.
And their identity crisis. Oh, I don't have the NFL. Who am I? Like, what do I have? This is all that I'm good at, you know?
Mm,
Yes.
And that's just a little piece that I went through that as well. And that was one thing that helped us get through hers is because I understood it and allowed that space for her to find wherever else she is, there's so many things that blossomed out of that,
Yes.
and I'm grateful that I was able to understand where she was and be there for her in that sense.
Yeah, that's awesome, and you know what? It's funny that you said that because definitely men go through those identity crises all the time. And
Mm,
mm,
with COVID, it caused a lot of men to go through that identity crisis because a lot of people lost their jobs, businesses shuttered, or lost
mhm,
their companies, and they had to pivot and figure out, okay, I've been doing this for 15, 20 years. What
mm,
now? And so, that definitely applies to everyone because there has been such a shift. COVID caused such a shift in
mm,
everyone's lives. Everyone had to figure out how to pivot. What do I do next? Like, and in a way, for me, I can't speak for everyone because I know that so many people lost loved ones and have suffered so much. And that's definitely not to discount any of that. But for me, it was my eye-opening moment that made me wake up and realize it's time for a pivot. I've got my kids at home. I've got to educate them. And this is more important. And so when
mhm,
you find that, when you really realize that purpose, it is like this light bulb. Literally, it sounds super corny sometimes, but there really is that true light bulb. So for you, when
mm,
you decided, Lawrence, and said, okay, this music thing isn't going kind of the way I want it, how did you all take your brand decide and say, okay, this is the specific type of brand that we're going to pivot into? Because you could have pivoted into so many different things. So, how
mhm,
did you guys, like, at what point did you guys come together, put your heads together, and say, all right, she can do the websites, she can do the social media. So, let's pivot and let's now create Wave Enterprises?
Right. Well, it wasn't necessarily the music
Like
not
a moment.
working because the music is still like the foundation of it.
Okay,
It was
okay,
building around that and
got it.
offering because it wasn't just music production, there's audio engineering services,
Got it.
Mhm.
there's the social media piece. So when we came together,
It was during
it
COVID
was during
when we were
COVID.
like, everyone's starting a podcast.
Everyone's starting a podcast. Everyone, not just that, but everyone needs a social media presence for
Yes,
their business because everything's digital now. Everyone's inside online. So,
Mhm.
and we had everything already established before then to manage social medias, to do social media strategy, SEO optimization, to do the
mhm,
audio engineering piece for podcasting, for artists, for audiobooks, for all these things.
yes,
And then COVID was our like
A blessing in
the
disguise.
biggest blessing in disguise
yes.
because we were already set up before COVID, and then it's kind of like,
It kind of pushed us even more forward.
right.
Yes.
So to answer your question, once she had the identity crisis and really started building these skills, taking courses, doing things to really cultivate what she was passionate about, and
Mhm.
that's scrapbooking, that's crafts. She's
Oh, I
so
love
good.
it.
All this stuff. And then the teacher piece, she's very organized. So like she's
I'm always putting all of our client agendas
she's
together and like,
making the lesson plan. So like she has been building. So to answer your question, it was after the identity crisis, once we started building the social media piece and practicing on our own, building our own portfolio.
Mhm.
And it just those were the seeds we planted, and then it just blossomed from there to what it is today. So
And
Awesome.
yeah.
And I was gonna add that like we did go through like as you can imagine like working together as a married couple there were times where like we were like doing separate projects so
Mm,
it was causing some friction so we really had to like
Mm,
think about like okay really need to like narrow down who our target audience is where we can offer them audio and like social media so
mhm.
we can really be working together because
yes.
that's where the magic happens and that's how we're good
Yeah,
at working together so, it kind of just came out of that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
really good.
That's awesome. My husband and I partner on certain things, and it's always awesome working together because you get such different perspectives when
Mhm,
you're working together, and you can often someone else can see what you can't often see. But now I
mhm.
have a question because I wondered this when I was reading your profile. Can you tell our audience what exactly is conscious social media?
Ooh,
That's a good question.
ooh,
In our terms, conscious social media means everything you're putting out online is coming from your heart. It's not coming from a place of trickery or manipulation or, it's always full love and like full energy. You're putting your all out there and it's just being mindful in that way. If, for example, we schedule out days to create content and some days, like, if we're just not feeling it, like, maybe we've had a rough morning or whatever, like, we know that the energy we give is going to transfer through video. So
mm,
we might say, like, hey, you know what? We're just not going to make content that day. And that to us is being mindful,
and
about,
conscious.
yeah,
Let's just not put this out to put this out, even if
yeah,
And
not forcing
I'd
it.
like to add on a technical sense, conscious social media is also if you have a brand and you have a strategy, each post consciously being put out with a goal.
Yes.
If everything's aligned and what you're doing is really adding value and you believe in it, then
Mm-hmm.
3 clicks to my website is a conscious goal. And every post is strategically put and consciously intended to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
And you know, both of our what we just said combined is what we believe what conscious meet social media is.
Mm-hmm. And
awesome.
ultimately, the goal is to just help as many people as we can online. Like
Yes.
mostly what we think of. Yeah.
Yes, and that's often the goal when you are by nature, you are a giver. You are a
Mhm.
nurturer by nature, and I can tell that that's what you are, Gina, just from this interaction. And so when that is who you are, you're always looking to give back and to help others in some sort of way. And sometimes, especially with COVID, it was so difficult for givers, nurturers, creatives. It was difficult for us to figure out how our offerings could help other people, especially people that were outside of our immediate area. It's very difficult to figure that piece out when you're trying to do that. So, can you tell the audience how does one begin if a person has not created conscious content and they're again just I got to get something out there. I got to get something out there. And we often find that, and especially in today's time, social media can be overwhelmingly negative.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I know for myself, I have to take breaks. Every
Mhm.
single quarter, I take what is called my quarterly detox, where I
Mhm.
am completely dark online because I need that. I need to ground. I need to reshift because it's just so much like, even if you're not in that space, it's just
Mhm.
so much negativity that
Mm.
exists there. And there's a bound to be a little to creep in. So, how would one start on the path to creating conscious content? Like, where would they start if they have no idea where to start and they're like, I don't feel like my content's really reaching those that I'm really trying to reach? Like, where
Mm.
would you guys suggest that they start?
Mm.
Mm.
Want me
Good, yeah.
I would say that has everybody is unique.
Mm,
Everybody is a one of a kind. Never has
absolutely.
been here, never will ever be here. And I say start with that. Just figuring out who that is because
Mm.
oftentimes when things aren't connecting, it's because it's not authentic. It's not
Mm.
you. It's not you. And
Mm,
that's what, and if you're like, "Oh, I don't," those people will find you. Those people will find you. Like,
Mm.
start with that,
absolutely.
start with what you like, start with what you're passionate about.
Mhm.
It's very cliche, very vague terms right now, but that's really the foundation is who are you? Who are you?
Mhm.
And really getting that, and
And
I'll
I
let you go.
think I think that like what you were saying about social media breaks is so important
Mhm.
because actually before we came to Guatemala, like we were doing so much trying to prepare for coming here and like, some posts that were meant to go out were just not happening. And so we kind of went on an impromptu social media break. And out of that came, even more ideas because we gave ourselves time to like just not do it,
Yeah.
like just be like, okay, we're just not doing this right now. And I think social media breaks are so important because they just give you time to reflect and, do things that you enjoy doing. And that's where like your joy, comes back in. And that's where you can start coming up with ideas and being creative and allowing yourself to play and maybe record, you go to a cooking class, maybe you record that and somehow that comes back into your content strategy. And I think for us traveling, it's a fun way to create content because there's creativity all around us
Mhm.
Mm,
and ways where we can record content and it's always fun. And I think that just getting outside your bubble and trying new things is a good way to, try and make this conscious content,
Yeah.
tapping back into like your child self and just
Mhm.
letting yourself play a little bit.
right. Because I know that for me, when I take those breaks, well, yoga is a part of my daily life. It is just, I can't go a day without it. It is just a part of my life. Meditation is a part of my life. It's a part of who I have become. And I
Mhm.
know that those things, again, that might sound very cliche, but those are things that ground you and it
Mhm.
helps you to clear that mind. And so that was one of the things that just drew me to the wellness industry because I'd already been in the wellness industry for 10 years, like at least 10 years before I decided to become a yoga instructor and a meditation teacher and a sound healer. And it just
Wow.
felt at home for me. I felt so at home when I did it. And I find that in those moments of stillness, that's when I am able to truly get connected. Those were some of the things that I used to help me get through my identity crisis.
Mhm.
Mm.
And so
Wow.
that's part of my self-care. That's what I do to help me stay calm and sane, that and coffee. But so, what are a couple of the things that you guys do to help you stay calm? Because running a business is a lonely road, and people don't understand that. And it is really hard by yourself. And like you said before, Gina, it created tension even in your marriage. And so, what do you do to take care of yourself so that you can continue to put out that conscious content to really help make a difference to women of color who are in the wellness industry?
Mm.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Well, we always pick places to stay around the world that's in nature so that when we do need a moment, we can just literally just stare outside the window or go outside. We also travel with our cat, and she has been the biggest blessing to us because I feel like she just soaks up any negative energy that we have from us. And
Mm.
Or the environment.
yeah, she's so
Yeah.
and so we really both use her as, to relieve our stress, just playing with her for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like you, meditation. We actually live on a yoga retreat with.
Yeah, you would love it
Yeah,
here.
it's amazing. We have it
Uh,
beautiful. It's beautiful. Like we'll send you pictures
oh
after the
my
show.
God, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to come visit y'all because listen, that's my
Yeah.
jam. My kids tease me all the time and they say, Mom, we just scroll up and down your feed and you're always like, Namaste. They're like, they're like, Mom, come on. And it's so funny because they've seen two very different moms. And so
Mm,
seeing me in this chapter of my life has just been so interesting for them to watch. Now, I have a game
Wow.
I like to play with all my guests before they go. Are you
go
guys
ahead.
ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right.
Ready.
Absolutely.
It's called this or that. It's very simple. So the first question is coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Fluffy towels or cozy sheets?
Ooh, say that again.
Fluffy towels or cozy sheets?
Oh,
Cozy sheets.
that's really
That is
hard.
really hard, but mine is cozy sheets.
I think mine's a fluffy towel.
Wow.
Okay. Beach or mountain hike?
Beach.
Beach.
Running or yoga?
Yoga.
Running. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No offense taken. Fruits or veggies?
Fruits.
Fruits.
Action film or rom com?
Action.
Action.
Wow. Read a book or watch a movie?
Reading a book.
Watch a movie.
Mm.
And the last one is art museum or history museum?
Art museum.
Ooh.
I always
History.
get people with these.
History.
Those are good questions.
Y'all, thanks for playing that game. So before we go, please share with the audience how they can reach out to you if they'd like to connect with you guys. And do you guys have any special events online, virtually, that are currently taking place that you would like to drop on our audience before we go?
Well, he just released a song. It's called Another Life. You
Yes.
can find him at Trey Peace.
TRESPEACE. And
Okay.
Wave Enterprise, the easiest way to connect with us is on Instagram.
Mhm.
That's Wave Enterprise, Wave, WAVE, Enterprise, just the E is shared, and that's Wave
Okay.
Enterprise. And just shoot us a DM, let
Yeah.
us know.
Connect about travel or content creation or anything audio.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
Yes.
that
here.
is
Thank
so
you so much
awesome.
for having us.
Now, you guys, you know that All of this information is going to be in the show notes so that you will be able to reach out to our guests and connect with them. And like, listen, this was an awesome episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Melanin Wellness Podcast. Your story was so awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed listening. Guys, I can't wait to hear your feedback about this because they may have to be returning guests because I like while we were talking, like other questions formed. So again, thank you all so much for listening, family. Thank you to my guests, Lawrence and Gina Oliver. I love you all for listening, and I will talk to you guys again in the next episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. Until next time, family, be well.